Teresa Taylor.
Here.
Richard Costigan. Here. Rob Fechner.
Good afternoon.
Adria Jenkins-Jones. Here. Henry Jones. Here. David Miller.
Here.
Lynn Paquin for Betty Yee. Here.
And let's note that Margaret Brown is here, Ramon Rublikava, and
Matt Seha.
Matt Seha. I can never pronounce your last name, Matt. So, and for the treasurer, John Cheng. Next up is item 3, which is our executive report. I'm sorry, approval of the December, I totally missed it. Approval of the December 18th, 2018 Finance Administration Committee meeting. It's been moved by Mr. Jones, and did I get a second? Second by Mr. Fechner. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion carried. And now we move on to the executive report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Good afternoon. Michael Cohen with CalPERS. I did just want to follow up on this morning's conversation in terms of the recovery from Paradise. Obviously, you heard about the customer service direct and immediate reaction, but we're also monitoring the situation from a long-term fiscal standpoint. At this point, I'm happy to report the administration has provided the area with California Disaster Assistance Funds in order to help with some of their cash flow needs, but it's probably an issue that we'll be coming back to later in terms of their long-term recovery, but we are monitoring that. In terms of today's agenda, it's relatively light. One action item you'll hear about in terms of some minor revisions to some regulations, and then we'll conclude with our quarterly report on participating employers. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
All right, that was quick. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Item 4 is our action consent items.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Fechner. Second by Mr. Miller. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. And now we are moving on. We have our information consent items. No one has asked for any to be pulled off. We are moving on to the item 6, agenda item, actuarial reporting. Item 6A, revised proposed regulations for employer actuarial liability, significant increase. It's a long title.
That's a mouthful. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the mic. It's not on.
Other side.
Other side? There you go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Item 6A is an action item requesting the committee to approve modified regulations needed to implement Government Code Section 20791. The committee heard a presentation on these regulations back in September of this year, so not that long ago. And given that, what I'd like to do today is focus on why there were some modifications and what they are, and really not go into a lot of the other details of the regulations since we went through those fairly recently. Of course, if you have questions, need your memory refreshed on any of these details, let me know. So, in September, the committee approved the draft regulations that the CalPERS team put together. After they had been through a 45-day public comment period with no comments received, we were then required to submit them to the Office of Administrative Law, who was required to approve them before they can be implemented. At the end of their review process, they contacted CalPERS team with some concerns that they had, issues they wanted to discuss with us, and that they were hoping we could address. The CalPERS team met after hearing their issues, and there was only one of any significance. We decided that we had no reservations making changes that we believed would satisfy the OAL and receive approval. And so we went ahead and made some modifications that basically just remove a little bit of discretion that was previously given to the chief actuary with regard to these regulations. The OAL preferred that there not be that discretion and that the regulations should specify exactly how certain adjustments were going to be made in the future. And so we replaced the language that provided some discretion with just a more detailed description of how the adjustments going forward will work. Again, the team had no reservations with doing that. The language reflects what we were likely to have done anyway. The language mirrors adjustments that are made to other items used in the administration of CalPERS benefits, such as the PEPR compensation limits, IRC 415 limits, and such. So the staff had no reservations. We've made the modifications. Should the committee approve them today, there will be a 15-day public comment period where the public may comment on just the changes that were made, at which point we are confident that the OAL will give their final approval. So with that, happy to take any questions.
All right, I have one question. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we approve the recommendation.
Second it.
So it's been moved and seconded by Mr. Jones. Moved it. Mr. Miller seconded it. I don't see any further discussion on the matter. So all those in favor of changing the language per OAL?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All those opposed? All right. Motion passes. That was quick. And we move on to agenda item 7, which is our information agenda item on pension contract management services. And that Armida and, I'm sorry. Who's going? Michael? Armida?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Arnita Page, CalPERS team member. Today I'm here to provide an update on our reporting on our participating employers report. I'll start by providing our annual update on funded status information and demographic information, and then an update on our quarterly reports. Andy Nguyen, he is a program manager for our contract services program, is here to assist with this presentation. CalPERS services over 2,800 employers, and in this presentation will focus on our public agencies. Slide 3 provides the demographic information by agency type. The cities and towns represent 51% of the total participants, and then our nonprofits had the highest proportion of current unfunded liability at 80%. Slide 4 displays our current funded status information in 10% increments by agency type. This report basically shows that 85% of our agencies are currently funded at more than 70%. Mm-hmm. Slide 5 provides our update on our ongoing efforts to work with agencies with no active members. These agencies are all current on their pension obligations. Our cross-divisional team has reviewed these cases, working closely with our employer partners. Most of these cases have been moved into our ongoing monitoring status, which is that column on your far right. This year, we did add 13 new cases that are from our annual validation, annual, I don't know why I'm saying that wrong. Our annual valuation data, excuse me.
That's okay. I've been saying everything wrong. You're good.
Okay, thanks. We have been working on these cases throughout the year, but we just use this data source to officially update this report. We added 7 new cases and 6 additional ones that were on our operations report. This, just to consolidate our operations report, in this particular, these additional 6, they actually have no participants in the system, but for transparency, we just added the entire population on this report.
Okay.
On our next slide, that represents our terminated agency report update. Since we last met with you, we added 2 additional agencies, which brings our total to a total of 12 agencies. On our collections report, this reflects activity from July through September 30th. I'm pleased to report that the outstanding amounts we have here are operational and they're solvable. So we have no agencies currently at risk of termination or default. And that concludes our presentation today. Happy to answer any questions.
So I'm not seeing any questions yet. Maybe I'll kick it off with my questions. On page 6 of 11, I'm seeing terminated agency report. Some of these are, wow, one's all the way back to 2011. But it looks like there's more than, oh no, I see what I'm looking at here. I thought that, so there's 12 agencies, so you added 2, I wrote down?
Well, the 12 agencies, from the last report, we had 10 in September. My comment was that we added 2 more to bring a total of 12 now.
And who are the 2 new agencies?
The 2 new agencies are Marin Healthcare District, and the other agency is Downey Cemetery District.
Cemetery. Both have no members.
Right, they have no members. And what we're doing is we're utilizing our termination process to close out both these contracts.
Okay, because they have no members.
Correct.
Okay.
They're aged, older
Got it.
contracts.
Okay. And that was it for me. It looks like Matthew Saha. Go ahead. Saha, sorry.
Okay.
You're fine. Thank you, Madam Chair. Really quick question about the public agency funded status, which is on, I think, page 4. Just curious if staff has any information regarding any trend among individual funded statuses.
Pardon, I'm sorry.
I wonder if there's any trend you can share with us with regard to the funding statuses from previous reports, or maybe year over year.
I believe the last one that we reported, when you say in trends, are you referring to the ones lower? I mean, this report looks pretty consistent with last year, except the funded status is a little higher.
Okay.
What we did provide in the appendix area, we do have a report. What page is that in?
In the appendix 1, we show you the 3 years funding status based on the agency type.
And that's pretty much the trends. It shows we're pretty much consistent. We haven't seen much variation.
Okay, very good. And actually, really quick, another quick follow-up was, is there data that you all collect on the school districts as well with regard to funding status?
Not at this time. We have looked at it, but not at this time. We haven't really reported on it.
Okay, and that could be something you could provide the committee at a later date or in the future?
Well, the funded status is not necessarily like this by agency type. It's by the pool itself, and that's pretty much actually what the actuary team reports on the total pool is what we've seen that's available.
Okay. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Costigan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, excellent report.
Thank you.
I appreciate it's evolved and it's really turned into a great document. Just in trying to clean it up, when I look at Central Sierra Planning Council, which is a JPA with 7 members, their notice intent to terminate was in 2011. So either when do they drop off? When will we get them off the report? What's the status?
I appreciate that question. The current law does not provide an expiration date for these intent to termination, but the good news come January, when our legislation becomes effective for terminating agencies, that if an agency that does not provide their final resolution to terminate within a year of their filing their intent to terminate, then they have to start over. So for these cases here, what we're doing, if they do not file, we're in communication with them, and if they do not file their resolution of intent to terminate by December 30th, 2018, then they have to start over. That means they have to file a new intent to terminate.
So are they all current?
Yes, they're current. So they're going, a lot of them are just discussions back and forth about termination costs. They're aware of what their total costs are. We have been in communication with them.
That's great. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just follow up on that. If they've been talking to us since 2011, that's
Well,
7 years.
Yeah. Well, what's happened when we, let me back up a bit because that's an excellent question. When we first brought this population, when we started talking to them, that's when we discovered that they had these older intents to terminate. So that is when we found out. So that's why I'm glad that the law will assist us so that when, because we won't know unless they provide it to us, that this new law will help us shorten that time frame.
So are they, the reason we don't know is because they're up to date on their payments?
Right, they are.
Okay.
And so we just started a conversation, right? All these agencies are current on they're current on their pension obligations. Right now, we don't have any agencies that are at risk of termination as of today. They're current. These agencies are unique in that they don't have any active members, so the question is path forward for them. Some of them we've discussed, have service agreements, so, they're no longer providing that function. So these agencies are talking, they're saying, we think we're going to terminate, or they just continue to pay their obligations.
Instead of terminating.
Right. And so they're discussing that. So we just want to be transparent because we are working on this list, and the list is growing because we are working with these employers for them to discern what they're going to do.
Okay. So this isn't an actual list of terminating agencies.
Right. These are lists that provide us of their notice of intent to terminate. So what the objective of this report is to say, okay, they went through step one. When we receive their resolution to terminate, okay. So that's why we want to step two. So what this report is designed to do is show you along the way who we're discussing that asked, is talked about termination, provided their intent to terminate. Okay, they've adopted their final resolution to terminate, and so that you can see along, did they pay their costs? So we're just trying to be transparent to the board to show every step of the way who we're talking to and who's talking about this subject and what they want to do, and provided went through the first step.
So as Mr. Costigan said, I also appreciate the report. I've been here since we started talking about making sure that we were ahead of this so that we wouldn't get surprised, and I really appreciate the hard work you guys have done. And Ms. Page, thank you very much. I've got one more question.
Sure.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I also echo the complimentary remarks about what a wonderful report this is. And by having this public discussion of these issues, it may also inform the agencies, and so they're better prepared to respond to your questions. So that's a good outcome, I think. A question I have on that, I think it's the page, right, that's on the screen now. What are the little hash marks in those 3 columns for?
Those are edits gone bad. They shouldn't be there.
Oh.
And I just want to be transparent. And boy, that's the first time I recognize. I appreciate that. Okay. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, we will move on to agenda item 8. That was just an information item, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
8, which is information agenda item. Anything to report?
I think we're good. We kind of covered the action we needed to. So thank you very much.
Boy, this was a light meeting. I'm not used to finance administration.
Yes, I appreciate the efficiency.
I don't believe there's any public comment. Would anyone from the public like to speak? All right. If not, this meeting is adjourned.